time to dive into the For FF's Sake podcast. FF's Sake podcast. The place for your weekly dose of fantasy football advice, breakdown, and debate. Redraft, dynasty, sleepers, and buy or sell candidates. It all gets discussed right here. Now, let's go to your hosts, two guys that say the other is an idiot. Ian Steele and Evan Harris.
Welcome into For FF's Sake podcast. Evan Harris here with Ian Steele, and we're on episode 3, week 3 of the NFL season. We got a lot to throw at you guys in this episode, but first, we start with the report card, all right? So we got to go back to our takes from last week. Much better week for me this week, Ian. I was like a solid F last week.
It was. You were kind of like Rojo in the takes, you know. It could be worse.
Yeah.
But you had a little bit of a better bounce back than he did.
It's hard to come back from negative points, right? And that's where we're at. So I had some good takes. You had some good takes. You had some bad takes. I had a bad take. I just want to say a bad take. That's my personal opinion. We'll leave it at that. But we're going to even debate some of these really quick. So both of us on takes last week, we broke it down 5 and 2 each with one asterisk. Get the asterisk out of the way. The asterisk for me was I took as a bounce back player Ronald Jones. From negative 8.8 points to 5.6 points, that's a bounce back, but it was not projection. So I didn't feel good taking the credit for that. Your asterisk is you picked Jacobs as a dud, but we'll never know because he didn't play. Okay.
Yeah, it's a fair one. I feel confident in my take still because their number one running back only made 8 points. So I still think it's a good take, but
so you should have just said Raiders RB1.
Yeah, it would have been.
Raiders RB1 is the dud this week.
Yeah, there we go.
Best take for both of us was an easy one. I picked Cooper Kupp last week. We're going to talk about him a little bit more in the show later, so I don't want to really elaborate on that one. But I picked him as my stud for the week, and he was that leading receiver for the week in a lot of metrics. My worst take was I thought the stud for this week was going to be Antonio Gibson. And had he been used like he was in week 1, instead of the phantom McKissick drive that happened, I would have been right on par with my stud projection, I feel like. But the phantom McKissick, I think everybody's seen the meme by now of where like the defenders had nobody on the left side of the offense. And it was just, easy touchdown right here. I'm going to coast in. Why couldn't that have been Gibson? He averaged over 5 yards a carry. I'm just going to throw that out there. I'm done. I'm done talking about it until when I'm not. All right. I'll let you tell the people who your stud and dud were.
Yeah. So obviously we talked about my asterisks with Jacobs. I'll take it. My best take, Aaron Jones. Again, it was kind of an easy one. He had a really uncharacteristic week 1 performance, and then he bounced back in a big way, and he probably swung a good percentage of matchups this week with that Monday night performance. Him and the entire Green Bay offense actually all did what we saw them do last season, so it was refreshing. And then my worst take, which you put in the docket here, and I stand by it though.
All right, let's go.
Juju is a dud. He was a dud. He had a rushing touchdown. That doesn't count. Shouldn't count. Receivers shouldn't get them. End of story.
So he's versatile. We've covered that. He can run and catch. So here's the reason I put it as a dud. The main reason. 1, because you didn't draft Juju to be a wide receiver 2. You drafted him to be a wide receiver 3 or a flex, which 13.44 points. I'll sign up for that all day in my flex. I wish I would have started them in a dynasty league we were in our flex. Okay. Because that's solid production.
It wouldn't have mattered. Just
no, it wouldn't matter because the other guy had Aaron frickin' Jones, and
right.
like I'm just like playing people with breakout weeks. All right, but anyways, so the other reason was I told you he is a touchdown away from not being a dud at any point because he's getting the targets, he's gonna get the catches, and I told you that last week. He got the touchdown. It was a rushing touchdown, but they still count as 6 points last I checked. All right. So I think it was a good week for him. He also went ahead of projections of where he was at. Projection was like 10 points for the week. So 13.4 beat projection, and I think had a solid week. He wasn't a dud. When we were saying duds, I mean, your dud running back with an asterisk was Jacobs, who had 0, And then Kenyon Drake, I think, had like maybe not, I think I started him in a flex. He was 9 points in a high scoring league. So, is what it is. I think it was a dud. You still don't want to concede that it was it
was my worst take. I still don't think it was a bad take. There we go. We'll go with that.
All right. So we want to bring something new to you guys this week. Me and Ian were talking, and here's the deal. Don't panic. It's only week 2. We had overreaction week 1. Week 2, I think not many people talk about not overreacting. So you're in that space where I either overreact high or overreact low. People feel like, oh, it's 2 weeks. This is the gospel. This is what it's going to be the rest of the year. No, not always. So we got some guys we wanted to talk to you about reality versus Mirage. Are they what they look like, or is it just a mirage? So we got some guys that are on the uptick of that, guys that are exceeding expectations that we're going to talk about where we feel like they'll finish rest of the season versus guys that we feel like are underperforming and where they'll finish the rest of the season. And then we'll talk some buy and sell. These are probably guys that you have on your team right now that you're contemplating, what do I do? And I'm just going to go out and say, before we even start going through these names, Ian, I think you might agree with me on this. It's always going out on a limb when I say you might agree with me before even talking about it.
Yeah, that's brave.
These are some, especially these guys that are in the green. These are some guys that we could probably see go either way. Like, you could argue either way. Some of them, not all of them. The first one that I don't think is even an argument, Cooper Kupp, the guy that I was right on last week, the guy I traded for last week in a league. I think a lot of people expected Cooper Kupp to be good. I don't think anybody expected Cooper Kupp to be this good. Wide receiver 1 on the year, number 2 non-quarterback overall, only behind Derrick Henry, who just made the entire Seattle defense his redheaded stepchildren. Like, that's the only player he's behind. And it's not just one big week. He's a half inch away from having 2 touchdowns in both weeks, diving for the end zone. They actually caught it initially, a touchdown, reversed it. 20.3 points the first week, 32.3 points the second week. We are grading this by half point PPR if you're listening to our points. He was wide receiver 6. I found this interesting. Wide receiver 6 in 2019. That is his only wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 finish in his career so far.
Yeah, and obviously that's a lot to do with injuries. He's had a lot of injuries over the years. Yeah, he's been great. And I think he's flashed his whole career. He's had big games, especially in the big, like the primetime games. He seems to show up big time. And he's gelled really fast with Stafford. So for me, he's a hold. You're never going to get the value you want for him right now. I mean, you've got him. Whoever's drafted him cheap. He's probably a 5th rounder, a 6th rounder, depending on your format. And he's won you 2 weeks, so I don't see why you would move him. For me, his performance is an opportunity to buy low on Robert Woods, because his performance is completely overshadowing what has been a pretty decent start to the season by Robert Woods. And obviously, it's not sustainable. Even the greatest receivers in the league don't average 25 points a week. So, he's going to regress, and people are going to clue in on him as the season progresses. And then Woods and Higbee are going to find other opportunities. So he's been phenomenal. If you got him, ride him to the bank. And if you need a receiver, I would go looking for Robert Woods if you want a piece of the Rams offense.
So here's the thing. Can Cooper Kupp finish as a wide receiver 1 this season? I think he can. I mean, He's already got such a jump start on it. So I think he's probably one of the more safe bets at wide receiver this year. He's getting the targets. He's over 10 targets game the first 2 weeks. So I'll say that. The only way I'm trading Cooper Kupp in week 1 is if you can get some guy in your league that is panic mode because Jefferson has 1 touchdown through the 2 weeks and hasn't had a 20-point game. Or if you can get a guy like a Devontae Adams or a DeAndre Hopkins, who I feel like probably have a higher ceiling than Kupp, then maybe if you can get those guys plus, absolutely go for it, because there might be a guy that sees what Kupp has done the first 2 weeks, which is, I don't know if there's been, I don't want to say that, there probably has been, but it would be, I I think you'd be pretty close, hard pressed to find a better week 1, week 2 start than what Kupp's had.
No, I agree. I think Ridley started pretty hot last season.
Yeah.
As well. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. We're talking, small margins here. But yeah, I like that take. If you can get a piece, maybe you played a guy week one who had Adams or Jefferson, and you whooped them with Cooper Kupp,
and
they're feeling
looking at that deep in his soul.
Yeah, and they're like, man, if only I had Cooper Kupp, I'd be 2-0.
Yeah, and
you can take advantage of that. You're going to get a good piece. Adams looked great last night again, and everybody seemed on the same page. So, yeah, there's opportunities there. But honestly, it would have to be a mega deal for me to move on Kupp right now.
So the biggest week of Kupp trades, like if we could see all the trades that go down in fantasy leagues and dynasty leagues, the biggest week of Kupp trades will be the first week he doesn't have a 15-point outing. The first week he shows any mortality, that guy that got Kupp cheap is going to be like, sell as quick as I can, I think. I might be wrong on that, but that's where I see some of those guys, not me, but other guys selling.
Oh, yeah, because you're adverse to trading.
Hey, adverse. I have my 3-day chip right now, okay?
Oh, yeah.
So start us off, Ian, with our second guy here that we have in the green, guys that are outperforming where you drafted them. And is this reality or is it a mirage?
Yeah, we have Rob Gronkowski down here, and he's playing like it's 2014. It's awesome to watch as a Patriot fan, and don't let the jersey fool you. This is just I'm a Montgomery fan, but I'm a Patriots fan. Yeah, it's great to watch. It's like Brady is. I don't know. Brady's just like scripting the game however he wants. He's getting 2 of his receivers involved, and then hits the red zone. And he's like, "Here you go, Gronk. Here's your 2 touchdowns." And then the next week he gets 2 of the, he'll go. He went AB and Evan and Godwin, and then Godwin and Evans. Next week it will be Evans and AB, but Gronk is always going to get his in the end zone. And so Gronk was going so low. I saw him go in the last round in some drafts, and yeah, I think I was sort of apprehensive about his production because OJ Howard's coming back, and last season he started off pretty hot with Brady, and I thought maybe that would be more of a feature. But we're seeing the Arians. It's not just the running back; he rides the hot hand no matter what position it is. So, and Gronk is on fire. So, you keep him. Don't trade him right now. I don't think, because he looks like he looks untouchable. So, and tight end is such a difficult spot to gain value.
Before I get into some of these numbers and some of my thoughts on this, I want to ask you, if you have Gronk in your league, half PPR, and somebody sends you a trade of Mark Andrews for Gronk, who we'll talk about Mark Andrews a little bit later, do you take that trade right now?
That's a tough one. I might have to see 1 week of, because Baltimore running the ball like you wouldn't believe. Lamar looks incredible on the ground again, like 2 years ago. And Hollywood Brown is on fire too. So Andrews is, although he's not bad, not right now. I need to see 1 week of decent production from Andrews to suggest that he might, get back to where we thought he was going to be.
So I just wanted to say that to say how crazy that is, because just a week ago, 2 weeks ago, that's something you're jumping for joy when that trade hits your inbox.
Oh, the commissioner's vetoing it. It's not happening.
So it's just wild to think that. So Rob Gronkowski currently tied into only behind Kelsey, number 12 overall non-quarterback. So he is a player 1 in your league right now. Think about that for a second.
Yep.
Non-quarterback. Week 1, 25 points. Week 2, 17.9. The most interesting thing to me, and I guess the only reason I would consider selling, right? Only reason I would consider selling is he's doing it so different than he did back in 2017 and before, right? In 2017 before, he was almost the number 1 option on that offense. He was the go-to look. They hit him over the middle so much. They had designed plays for him to catch and run, which you see at him. Tight ends more like Darren Waller and stuff. Right now, he's almost playing this system of short check down guy and a guy that whenever, as you mentioned, in the red zone, I feel like he's the bulldog that's in the cage, and Brady's just feeding him treats every once in a while. Here you go, buddy. Here's your treat. He has 2 touchdowns in back-to-back weeks. I don't think that's sustainable. I don't think 2 touchdowns a week is sustainable.
It's not. But take one off both weeks, and he's still probably in the top 10 tight ends in the league. So he's still a guy you're going to be happy rolling out week in, week out.
Absolutely. So I guess here's where I'm going with this. If you have Gronkowski right now, we just said if you got an offer for Andrews, you'd hold, right? Andrews was tight end 4-5 coming into the season. Somewhere right in there. He was typically being taken in that range. So if you can get a guy, you're probably not getting a Hawkinson, you're probably not getting a Kelsey, but if you can get a guy like a Waller who had a down week 2, if you can get a guy like a Kittle who's had a rough start by Kittle standards of the season, are you holding then? And I don't think that's necessarily out of the realm of possibility to see in your inbox right now with because there's some guy that had Gronk in 2017 who led him to a championship.
Oh, yeah.
And now you're seeing what Gronk's doing, and it's with Brady. And not to mention, this did shock me when I looked. He finished as a tight end 1 last year. I didn't realize that. Finished right on the borderline of tight end 1.
He had a great end to the season when he finally got going. He just was kicking butt. So, yeah, he did. But that was a barren wasteland of tight end position last season. So, I mean, I think I could have finished as like tight end 11 last season.
If Brady was throwing me the ball, absolutely.
Yeah, so but I would probably, of those options, I might wait until I hear that Trey Lance is getting the job and then go hunting for Kittle if he's still misfiring, because I think that Kittle will be a much bigger piece of that offense once Trey Lance gets the job. Assuming he does, he may not get the job, but if he does, I think Kittle will be a big part of that offense.
All right. These are fun. We're going to go to the next guy, another wide receiver. You could almost insert any top 15 receiver right now. It's just the names at the top of the list right now are a little wild. Yeah. But this one hurts me, Ian. This one hurts me. This is a guy that I've been high on since he was drafted. I had him in every dynasty league until this year, and I sold him. I had him in all kinds of different leagues, and I just got rid of him. And I missed out on Mike Williams. Mike Williams is getting used like the X receiver has for years in New Orleans under Joe Lombardi's offense. He is right now wide receiver 5 through 2 weeks. Consistency is key. He had 18.2 points week 1, half PPR, 18.6 in week 2. He did have a touchdown in both of those weeks. Number 21 overall player, non-quarterback. So Mike Williams, can he sustain? I want to lead off with this one really quick. You know, if Mike Williams can stay healthy, there's no way he finishes outside of the top 20 receivers, in my opinion. If Mike Williams stays healthy with Justin Herbert, who hasn't put him in the doghouse, and Keenan Allen, who is playing a completely different role. Allen's getting plenty of targets and he's getting usage, but he's just playing a drastically different role. If you go back and watch highlights of where they're targeting a guy like Mike Williams. And the other thing is, if you play in a league like Ian, we do, where you get a half point for first downs, they're looking for Mike Williams on third downs. Mm-hmm. I don't think a touchdown a week is sustainable. I don't think he's going to have 17 touchdowns per se. But I think he's going to consistently score you over 10 points. I don't think he is going to have the 25, 30 point weeks, because I think Keenan Allen is going to get his as well, and Eckler is also. But I do think he'll finish as a top 20 wide receiver this year. I hold him because I don't think you can get his value. And with all of that being said, I'm still scared to death to trade for him right now at his value.
It's funny that, because you sent me about 4 trade offers for him.
But I didn't send them at his value. I mean, if we talk about the players, I sent a gift. My bad. I get it.
Yeah. You said
I sent for his value at draft night. That's what I sent you an offer at.
Yeah. In like 2017, right?
Yeah.
Right. No, he's been great, and like you said, health has been a concern his entire career, and he seems healthy. And I've been pretty pretty impressed and pretty encouraged by the new offense in Los Angeles with the Chargers. It was obviously a big question mark coming in, so I think he dropped a little bit because we didn't know what they were going to do. And it's kind of nice that the doghouse is gone because Anthony Lynn, as a head coach, was a nightmare. He's worse than Shanahan. Like, he made decisions that just didn't make sense, and you're like, what are you doing? Like last season,
a lot like you every day, right?
No, I'm good. I'm solid. Like, I'm consistent. But him and Herbert and Allen last season were just destroying defenses, and Keenan Allen was getting 16, 17, 19 targets a game. And then Anthony Lynn was like, "Oh yeah, he's cloning in too much on Keenan Allen. We're gonna mix it up. You're winning games, you idiot. What are you talking about?" So it's nice that he's gone, and the new offense was it's been a pleasant surprise so far. They're really passing the ball. They're catering it to Herbert, not they used to run the ball a lot more, I think, under Anthony Lynn, and that's not even their number one running back strength. So he's more of a pass catcher. So it's been nice to see. They've been fun to watch. So I like Mike Williams.
Yeah, you hold him, right? Hold him.
Absolutely. I just want to play him. I haven't played him yet. He's been on my bench for 2 weeks, so
oh,
I've had the opportunity to play him.
So you have the nads to start him this week, right?
Yeah. Well, I tried to start him last week, but I got glitched.
That did happen. It didn't hurt you too bad. All right. Darrel Henderson is our last guy here. I'll let you start off on Darrel Henderson. Current RB6. He's at a touchdown each week, 15.2, 15.7 each week's consistent. He was drafted typically in the 3rd to 4th round, and he's playing like an RB1 right now. Yeah,
it's been a pleasant surprise, but I think a lot of people, when you looked at the really the metrics of him and Akers, there wasn't a lot of difference as far as like how they produced on the NFL field. There's definitely a difference to the eye test. Akers looks like more the archetype NFL running back than Henderson probably does, but at least the bow cow back anyways. But as far as their metrics, their performances on the field, they were pretty darn close last season when they were sharing snaps. So he's been solid, and the threat of Stafford and that receiver core and even Higbee is opening up lanes for him, almost as big as you would have for like a running quarterback, because they just have to commit to the pass, and he's been eating. So, and he's their only real weapon. So he's going to get all the goal line looks. Stafford's not going to steal any of those. He's solid. For what you paid for him, he's a solid play. I've been trying to get him in a few leagues, and I'm not getting any luck. So,
Ian, my heart right now is overflowing that you finally had a bad take on the show today.
Oh yeah,
because I am sell him, get him out of here as soon as I can sell Darrel Henderson at his current value. Gone, and here's why: it's not all Darrel Henderson's fault. Okay, it is some his fault. He's hurt me in the past. It's been painful. But look, here's the deal. Henderson is going to get hurt. He got hurt last week, and he's going to play hurt now, and then he'll be out by week 5. Sony Michel almost equaled his usage last week, and Sony Michel has been there for 3 weeks. Okay? They didn't trade and give up what they gave up for Sony Michel to ride him on the bench. Sony Michel is going to get looks. Even if it goes to a 50-50 share, Darrel Henderson becomes a touchdown-dependent running back, which is a flex play. He is not an RB1. He is not an RB2. I don't know that you can trade him for RB1 value right now, but I think you can trade him for RB2 value right now. I don't think he's going to be that for you. And I guess this more so goes into the thing that there's a lot of RB1s that are not performing week 1 and week 2 right now. We're going to talk about some of those guys. So I'm going to glance at our list so I don't mention their names. But a guy like Antonio Gibson, we mentioned earlier, if you have an idiot out there that will trade you Gibson for Henderson, you take it and run away smiling. There's so many guys in week 1 and 2. Ezekiel Elliott, who did not have a great week 1 and now had to share the load with Pollard a little bit week 2. Maybe that Zeke guy is scared. I'll give Henderson plus for Zeke right now, just because that's you got to trust him moving forward, I think. That's why I sell Henderson. I don't think Henderson is going to be starting for you when you make a playoff run, because he's either going to be hurt or he's not going to be starting as an RB1 or RB2 for you during that playoff run, because he's either going to be hurt or he's going to be conceding all the a lot of the work to Sony Michel, and he's going to be a flex play for you. So
I don't disagree with that, but what you paid for him, even after Akers went down, if you drafted before Akers went down, you paid nothing for Henderson. But even after Akers went down, he was going in the 4th and maybe 5th round. I think I've seen him early as the late 3rd, maybe. But
you're going to sell him for a 1st or 2nd round guy.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you've already got 2 running backs in round 1 and 2, most likely, and so he's your 3rd guy, so you don't have to play him.
Okay, then trade for a wide receiver. If you and a wide receiver in a depth piece that is actually going to be a flex like Henderson's going to be down the line.
Maybe. Those running backs are a lot harder to come by than receivers. Look at the boom weeks this week.
Oh yeah,
guys like Rondell Moore, Michael Pittman came out. There's a lot of big performances from guys who were either undrafted or even Hunter Renfrow started the season pretty solid.
KJ Osborne.
Another guy. So there's guys on the waivers that can put up production that you've seen week 1 and week 2 that never even got drafted. But there's no running backs doing that. That's what I mean.
How many of those guys that had boom weeks though had boom weeks either on the waiver wire or on the bench?
No, I agree with that. But I'm just saying there's no running backs on the waivers that had a boom week. Not one. So I wouldn't sell him for that reason.
I'm not selling him if I'm selling him. If I'm selling him at 3rd to 5th round value, I'm not selling him. If I'm selling him more than that, because there's some guy who drafted Dobbins who now is hurt.
If I can get Pollard and a decent receiver, then I'll trade him.
And I think that's selling low on Henderson right now. He's again. If you trade Henderson in the league, let us know. I want some messages from you guys out there. We'll try to put this out on Twitter as well. All right, we got to get to the guys that are underperforming, guys you drafted in the top few rounds or top at their position, and they're just not working out. They're not doing it, and you're starting to panic a little bit. Okay, you're not sure, should I sell this guy while his name still has value, or should I hold on because he is who I thought he was? Right? He look, you do all this research preseason, and then it's like, yep, I'm wrong. 2 weeks in, sell him.
Yep.
I've been there, done that. All right. I've sold them and bought them back. Did that with Saquon Barkley in a league, who we'll talk about a little bit later. All right. So the first guy, Ian, this one hurts for both of us because we both have him in a dynasty. Jonathan Taylor.
Yep.
Current running back 27. You didn't draft him in the first round to be that. 50% usage. That's the other scary thing. Currently averaging 10 points per game. I don't think he has a touchdown, though, week 1 or 2. I'll let you start on him.
Yeah, negative. He does not. I think it's been a bit perplexing the first 2 weeks, kind of how his season started last year. I think that the Wentz news may help him, though. If they're bringing in, not a rookie, but Jacob Eason is an inexperienced professional quarterback, and those are the kind of guys you want to have the running game to lean on. So I think that may be a blessing for Jonathan Taylor if Wentz does miss a week or 2 with his ankles. I don't know who sprains 2 ankles at the same time. That's impressive. But
reckless.
Yeah, Carson Wentz, don't walk, buddy. Don't walk. It's dangerous. But I think, I think we saw it last season, and those who held on to Jonathan Taylor last season were rewarded for doing so. He had a phenomenal run at the end of the year, and I think there's more of that to come.
So this is one of the most perplexing guys for me to talk about, Ian, because I have him in a dynasty, right? I got him really cheap in that dynasty. We won't go into all that. I probably got him cheaper than anybody could ever get him in a dynasty. I traded them for Mike Davis straight up, just FYI. I just said I wouldn't go into it. I couldn't help myself. Shame on me. Shame. But I don't have him in redrafts this year. I couldn't make myself draft him. It's hard for me because this is a guy that so many are high on, right? The consensus is that he's a top first round running back after his rookie year. He crushed the end of the season, but I'm just not there on him. I don't see it. I don't know why I can't make myself get there. I loved him in college. And a lot of this may be my Colts bias. You see the Titans flag hanging behind me. Big Titans fan. and I think I may like Taylor in a better situation. But here's the thing. He has 2 starting linemen that are hurt for the season. They're gone, including the left tackle. Wentz now is down. I don't disagree with you on the quarterback situation that the quarterback could help him. But when you go into last year, I'm just going to pull this up real quick. And you look at those last 5 games, and you'll know this because you had Montgomery in the league. You sold Montgomery. What was the knock on Montgomery? He had a similar late season run, but what was the big knock on why he was successful?
Well, he obviously played against the worst possible rush defenses in the league.
Okay.
Week after week. So same for Jonathan Taylor.
But then that's where I'm going. So Jonathan Taylor got to play Houston twice while Houston was obviously tanking and everybody was upset. In those games, he had 21 points and he had 17.5. He got to play a Las Vegas team that had absolutely just crumbled to everything. They're not the Las Vegas team they are now. And he got to play Jacksonville to end the season when Jacksonville was obviously trying to do anything but compete in a football game. He got 30 carries in that game, 253 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Look, I'm sure there's a lot of running backs that could put up really, really good numbers if they got 30 carries a game. Ask Derrick Henry. He gets to do it every year. Okay. I every time I see Derrick Henry in the big workload week, I think about a guy like just any top running back watching Henry. And I wonder if they think one of 2 things. Do they think, man, if I could get that type of work, I'd be number 1 in rushing too? Or are they thinking, golly, how does he take the punishment? How does he take 30 carries week in and week out? It's got to be one of the 2, right?
Yeah.
But so that's my knock on Taylor. He had this great end of the season, but the first half of the season, he was putting up okay numbers, but the usage was frustrating. He was under 50% usage or snap share, several times, getting somewhere between 12 and 15 carries a game. And then you go to this season, and I don't think he's hit 20 carries in a game yet this season. No, 17 and 15. He did have 7 targets for 6 receptions in week 1. So that's nice. But he's averaging less than 3.4 yards a carry for the season. I think probably its medium is somewhere around 3.3. If you only get 15 to 17 carries on that, and Hines is going to take some of that work in the receiving game, you're not an RB1. Are you an RB2? Probably. With his skill set, you're probably an RB2, but you did not draft him to be your RB2.
Right.
So if you can get name value on Taylor right now, I do it. I don't know that you can, so you probably hold. But that's where I'm at on Taylor.
His schedule coming up is pretty juicy as well. So especially weeks 6 through 10, Houston, San Fran, Tennessee, the Jets, and then Jacksonville.
That could be a push time too. So in that case, do you sell him now? Do you sell him now and try to buy him back after week 5?
You probably do.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. No, I think honestly, game script killed him this week against the Rams. I mean, they were down big and fast, and they started having to throw the ball a lot. And he looked solid in week 1, for me at least. And like you said, no touchdowns yet. So week 1, if he bumbles into the end zone, and he was on is that this week? Yeah, he was on the 1-yard line this week. So that automatically that changes the week. Looking 14 points, 11 points, you think, okay, it's a pretty solid start. Like, I'm not too upset with that. And then the schedule ahead, I don't think you can get the value like you said. I would hold him and just know that the Colts are going to get better. They're getting healthier and they're going to get better. So
if you're holding him, as long as you understand you're holding an RB2, that's where I'm at. He is not an RB1 this season. That's my take.
Week 2, it's hard to say that because you don't know what's going to happen health-wise.
I was saying that before the season is where I'm getting at. Like, this is more so my opinion on Taylor and less where he's at for the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to be maybe a high-end RB2 with week winning upside potentially, which I'm okay with that. Like, as long as it's solid production. I mean, again, you can throw this week out a little bit against the Rams because they just went nuts, and then you got to play catch up all game. So they're going to throw the ball. I mean, they threw the ball to Pittman 12 times and he got 123 yards, and he didn't do anything the week before. So that just kind of shows you game script is, as much as you've invested in a player, you can't do what Jacksonville did last year, be losing by 30 and just keep handing the ball off. It doesn't make sense. So
my other thing that would scare me a little with Taylor is how far do they get in the season where they just shut him down? They have a lot invested in him, first round pick, right? You saw the brutal injury that happened to Mac, and you already have the incentive not to try to win many games or not to start Carson Wentz, that is. And you're not winning games if you're starting Easton. That's just my opinion. So take it with a grain of salt. At what point do they get in the season where they go, if they don't fully shut them down, they're only giving them 10 carries a game because they're not really trying to win and they're trying to get a high draft pick?
Yeah, it's a difficult question. I don't know. That's a tough one.
Aha! What he wants to say there is Evan's right.
No, he doesn't.
It's not. Next one. Allen Robinson. I have this guy. I have shares of Allen Robinson in every single league I'm in. All right. So this one's going to be a little tough. I'm going to try my best not to be biased. But if I was sitting here saying that I was not scared a little bit, I would be lying because I paid up for Allen Robinson in one league. Current wide receiver 56, Ian. 6.5 points in week 1, 9.4 in week 2. I hate saying this statement just because you could say it with several players, but Allen Robinson is an 11-yard touchdown away from only having 8.4 points on the season through 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He did play. I'll let you go first because I have some defenses, but not many.
Yeah. So for me, I like Allen Robinson, and I got him in one league, I think, this year, and I just traded him away today. Actually, I traded him and Tanyan for Woods and Hawkinson.
You got some solid value.
I did, but I traded him on name value basically, and that touchdown helped because I think the box score showed that he did better than maybe he did. So the name is the name, and I think. I wouldn't buy him. If you can sell him on name value right now, I think I would sell him. I'm just not too sure. There's a lot of changing, a lot of worry, or not worry, but we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. Is Andy Dalton's going to be out for, we don't know how long now. He's not done. No, he got away with a bad injury, but he's going to be out for a while. So Fields is in. Fields was cluing in on Mooney, like big time. So, and not that he wasn't looking Allen Robinson's way, but not like you saw Dalton in week 1, and certainly not like you saw Foles and Trubisky last season, where he was the only guy they were looking at. So because they couldn't complete down the field to Mooney, so that's why. But so yeah, for me, if you can sell him before he has another bad week or 2 bad weeks where you're going to get no value for him, this would probably be a time I'd move on him if I could and try and get some decent value back.
So I will say Fields actually gives me a little bit of hope. He did definitely key in on Mooney last week, but you see that with a lot of second string guys that come in. Allen Robinson didn't do much through the preseason. He didn't do much at training camp. So Fields didn't get really any reps with him. I think if Fields gets reps with the one all week and says, oh my goodness, this guy's that good, he's going to start looking his way more. But you made a point there that whoever Fields keys in on, that's going to be a great value in fantasy because rookie quarterbacks key in on one guy and they're going to pepper him with targets. Herbert did it last year with Allen, like you mentioned earlier. So that's something to watch. Mooney might be a good buy for you this week if you can do
Mooney
that. Everywhere. Show me the Mooney. But no, so Allen Robinson, my one defense for him would be obviously week 1, he played one of the best corners in the NFL, played the Rams. Last week, you had a really good start to the game. First drive, touchdown. Andy Dalton goes out. Things are a little hectic. And then he can't get the rhythm back the rest of the way. He only had 4 targets, had 2 catches. So I don't think you're all for naught, right? He did catch the touchdown. He's still, scored at least something. He got a lot of targets in week 1, but I drafted him in 3rd round. I went back in and looked. I'm pretty sure I drafted him in 3rd round. I drafted him ahead of a guy like DJ Moore because I'm an idiot. Okay. And DJ Moore's hurt me. Yeah. I'm definitely that guy that just tries to avoid guys that have hurt me in the past, and I can't help it. Just a battered woman over here. You're going to use that later. But anyways, So Allen Robinson, I think can bounce back. I think if you can trade him on name value and get a guy that you are big on, I don't blame you for that. But I feel like he's a hard guy to sell right now because he's never been a sexy name. He just finishes as a wide receiver 1 or 2 every year.
Yeah, that's why I traded one unsexy wide receiver for another in Robert Woods. And I like the way
we're not talking about appearance, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. They're both handsome, whatever. But no, I agree with you. But yeah, for me, he's if you can get value. I mean, just throw him out there. There'll be somebody that, like you said with Gronk, that like last season or the season before, he helped them win a championship because he's just that consistent, and he's one of those rare pieces. Guys like him, Keenan Allen, Robert Woods, that you can just pop in every week and know you're going to get a good week out of your guy. So yeah, I'm sure you'd be able to get some value if you're a little nervous.
All right, we're going to try to get through these guys a little bit quicker. Mark Andrews is our next one. Current tight end 18. Mentioned him earlier, Ian. He's drafted as tight end 4 through 6, somewhere in that range. I've seen people be even bolder on him. And currently tight end 18, as I mentioned, he's had 5 targets a game, 3.5 points in week 1, 8.2 in week 2. And it really just, he don't look like the same guy right now. And I don't know how much of that's the offense and how much that's Lamar just staring a hole through Marquise Brown and running the ball. But how are you feeling if you have Mark Andrews shares right now?
Well, I have 1 share of him. I was a lot more encouraged by week 2. He looked a lot more involved in the game. So for me, if I personally have him, I'm probably going to hold off just real quick. But if I don't have him, I'm probably going to go try and convince the guy who does that maybe he's not for him this season. So try and get him a little bit cheaper and because again, we talk about this position. It's such a hard position to find value in outside of the top 4 or 5 guys. So everybody's tight end hungry, and there's a guy there that you could. I would potentially. Trying to think really. I mean, Fant. I don't know if I like Fant over. I would be okay with moving Fant for Andrews. I think right now.
Yeah, that's a hard one. I had Andrews share earlier this season. I sold him in a bigger deal that I got Kelsey in, so I'm pretty happy with how that turned out.
Yeah.
I don't know. Andrews really, again, he's been a guy that's been consistent, who's put up some points, but he's never really been a sexy name. The year he had his breakout, he was picked up off waivers, right? Which happens with a lot of tight ends. So I'm not trying to knock him for that. I think if I have him right now, if I can get value, you probably can't get value for him. So you hold him. It's just going to be one of those pieces where you look, do we think he's going to have 5 targets a game for the rest of the year and average somewhere around 5 points? Probably not. Right. I don't think that'll happen. But I will say this. It is very, very scary. The fact that they've had 2 running backs go down, right? They've had a rookie wide receiver that they just poured praise on. Everybody from defenders to Lamar Jackson poured praise on Rashad Bateman in the preseason and in training camp. And now he'll be back in less than 3 weeks. So that does look a little scary for Mark Andrews. So if you can get some name value, I wouldn't blame you. But here's the deal. If you're trading Mark Andrews and you're not getting one of those top guys, then you're probably going to have to stream tight ends or get 2 tight ends that you can play matchup. I'll tell you something sneaky I would like right here. If you could get a solid wide receiver or flex play running back and Mike Gesicki, because I think Gesicki's a good buy low candidate right now.
Gross.
Gross, he says. All right. Last one we have of these, a guy that has not performed. Here's another guy that I've been a little wishy-washy on. I've been high on, been low on. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I heard something this week, Ian. It said his value peaked after week 1 of his rookie season and has never reached that level again. I'd say that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, but that's a little harsh. It was a heck of a week 1. So that's a tough one. But yeah.
RB 49, 3 total targets through 2 weeks. 9.7 points in week 1, 1.6 in week 2. Games they were both involved in. Ian, your thoughts?
Yeah, game script. I think it's a similar story to Jonathan Taylor this season, anyways. Game script week 1 and week 2 with Kansas City have been absolute shootouts. If they'd have played it even, and then they lost one of them, so as good as Patrick Mahomes is, he couldn't win both. And so that takes it away from the running back. As you could have the best, you could have put Derrick Henry in that backfield and he would have done a lot more. I don't think, because the games just took off so fast and there were touchdowns being thrown up. It's like 21-14, and it's the first quarter. So I think a lot of it is game script. He has some nice matchups coming up. You're not going to get even close to what you paid for him, so you're going to have to hold. I'm in that position in one league. Don't feel good about it. But I didn't draft him to be an RB1. I drafted him to be a solid play in a good offense, and that's an offense you kind of want to piece in even if it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So last season, he was pretty solid for the most part, and that's kind of what I expect him to be. Again, it's just been a horrible, horrible start. So if you can buy low, I would buy low on him. But if you have him, then definitely don't sell.
This is a guy that everybody expected was going to get 6 targets a game. They expected him to be a guy like Brian Westbrook back in the day. That's who he was compared to, or an Eckler who's going to get a ton of targets, and he just hasn't. He doesn't have a lot of burst. He has some quick twitch, but he doesn't have, 0 to 60 speed. He's not extremely fast. You can see that from his 40, but he has really good vision, gets through the holes, great contact balance. But he just hasn't been able to make it work. And I think a lot of that is he just hasn't got the volume. I don't think they use him right. I said something to you in a text this weekend, and I stand by it. I don't think there's room for a 4th fantasy superstar on that offense. You got.
No, I agree with that, but I don't need him to be a
RB2. Yeah, I get you.
So, and I think another thing I didn't mention, that's a brand new offensive line, not newish, not 1 or 2 pieces.
Very true.
Every man is brand new, so they're all learning one another. You can go through all the preseason drills you want, all the preseason games. It's not full pace. It's not the same. You're not under the same stress. You don't have the same crowd noise. So they're all learning one another's clues and their sequences and so on. So I think he'll get better. So he's not going to be, he might not win you the league, but he won't cost you the league, if that makes sense.
One note I'll make to slightly agree with you there, and something a lot of people that if you're outside of Tennessee, you don't realize this. So Derrick Henry, we all know he had the 182-yard game this week. And I'm not just trying to talk about a Titans fan. I'm actually going to talk about offensive line here. So offensive line, Taylor Lewan, starting left tackle, starting left guard, Roger Saffold, 2 very, very well-paid offensive line, right? That's not the guys he was running behind when he got 180 yards. Lewan went down before the game started. Saffold went down near halftime, maybe early third quarter. He had all of success in the second half. Now you're saying, okay, are you bragging about Henry here? What's going on? No, what I'm telling you is the guys he was running behind was the same guys he was running behind last year when he ran for 2,000 yards. Aaron Brewer, who's like a 260-pound left guard. I think Henry almost weighs more than him. But that's who Henry ran behind late in the season last year, rushing for that. So the comfortability, knowing how your guys are going to block, how they're going to set things up in front of you. Ty Sambrello was the other guy, and David Quessenberry. I do not expect you to know any of those names. They're all second, third string guys. Quessenberry, really cool story. If you want to look up a cool story, beat cancer to come back and play. But last year was his first football action in like 4 years. And ended up starting left tackle as like a 4th-string left tackle for the Titans. But I just thought it was really interesting that we have these high-paid, very, very talented guys. Henry wasn't able to get it going behind them in week 1. They get hurt in week 2, and Henry burst out. So I think there's something to be said about what you mentioned there. New offensive line in front of CEH. It may take some time. So now you got me thinking. I might go to try to buy low in the league. You want to trade him for Drake?
Yeah, absolutely not.
All right. So we spent a lot of time on this, Ian. It's been a lot of fun. I want to run through these favorite plays for week 3 and a flex streamer.
Yep. You want to take it off first?
Sure. My favorite play, and these weren't guys that we thought, we're not trying to say they're going to be the RB1 or wide receiver 1 for the week. These are just some guys we really like their matchup. I really tried to think about this in terms of daily fantasy because I think my two favorite plays are guys that may be a little cheaper than they need to be. First one's going to be,
I was going to say daily fantasy. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is only like a couple $100 more than the backup to Henry. Just FYI.
Yes, same price.
Same price.
There might be some value there.
Yeah.
No, first guy, Saquon Barkley. If Barkley is going to break out, I'm putting all my Barkley eggs in this week, right? I think if he's going to break out, this is the week it's happening. And this week is going to be the determining factor for what we see from Barkley rest of the season. I know that's a lot to put out there, but here's my thing. Played less than 50% of the snaps week 1, played on a very short week, playing Thursday night, played over 80% of the snaps, got a lot more usage. And now we're going to go into week 3. He's got 10 days of break and he gets to play the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
There's not much of a better situation, right?
Yeah.
The Giants.
That Giants O-line looked a lot better. They shifted a lot of guys around. They moved a guy from guard to center and so on. They looked a lot better week 2 than they did week 1. So I like that.
So I think he's a guy. He's projected right now to get 16.8 points. I think he can hit that, and then he also always has the Saquon ability to just explode a week. So I'm not trying to go out bold and say he's going to score 25 plus, but I definitely think this is the first week of the season he hits projection.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the first week I'm going to roll him out in the league, I think. So I agree with that.
It's probably because I helped you make the decision. Is that what you're trying to say? No. That was like the softest no ever. It was like, I don't really want to hurt your feelings, but that's the most idiotic thing I think you've said. That's what I heard you saying that.
Not the most idiotic thing I've heard you say, but it's up there.
All right. Who's your favorite play running back for week 1, Ian?
We talked about it a little bit earlier. Austin Eckler, I think, is my play. He had a nice return to his typical form with some targets in week 2 after not getting a single one week 1. So and he has a pretty soft matchup also. And I just like the way they're playing football. I just like the way that the Chargers are playing football this season. So I think Eckler's going to have a good game. All
right. Favorite play, wide receiver for week 3.
I've talked about him a lot. He's probably my favorite player in the NFC other than Kamara, and that's Bobby Trees. Robert Woods, I think he's going to have a bigger week this week. Cooper Kupp's going to have a good week again, but I think Robert Woods will have a bigger week, maybe a touchdown, 100 yards, something like that. So roll him out there.
All right, my favorite play wide receiver for this week is A.J. Brown. Uncharacteristic drops last week. Not trying to be a Titans homer here, but I do get to watch those games a lot more. I think they're going to force feed him a little bit this week against Indy and try to get him going.
I heard they're going to take some samples from him, and hopefully it's going to be the cure to COVID because he couldn't even catch COVID last week.
His family texted him and said that he could not even catch the coronavirus. Now our video's flagged in. Now we're going to get fact checked. Way to go. All right. Fact check it is. No, I do think he has a solid week this week. I think they, like I said, force feed him, and Indy is trash. I will keep saying that until they prove me otherwise. All right. I want you to go first on I want you to go last on your flex play because I really, really like your flex play. I wish I would have said it actually. Your best take of the week right here coming up on your flex. All right, my flex streamer for this week. I think there's going to be a lot of leagues that drop this guy. And again, I'm not talking for those of you that play in 8-team leagues. Okay, 8-team leagues. You don't need to listen to fantasy football podcast for streamers because it's going to be guys we're having as wide receiver 2s and 3s. Okay, but no, a flex streamer. I think this guy's going to get dropped in a bunch of leagues. Guys that only look at box score, don't pay attention to anything else, don't watch any football, and that's Bryan Edwards. Bryan Edwards is on pace right now. It's my favorite stat in the world. He is on pace right now for 17 touchdowns, Ian, called back.
Yeah.
He had a touchdown called back week 1. Last week, a phantom holding call. He had another touchdown on a post route called back. Both of those, and everybody's riding the Bryan Edwards train because everybody saw the talent coming out of college. And he was talked up a lot in preseason as well. I think this is a guy that You just give him a little bit more time. Carr is not out. Carr's going to be in there. Carr playing really well. Best of his career so far, I think.
Carr looks awesome.
Yep. All right. Give it to me, Ian. Your flex streamer of the week.
Yeah, I think this is the week that Javonte Williams really busts out. He's got a cake matchup against the Jets, who just got dominated on the ground by the Patriots. And the Broncos look really good on the ground, between the two of them. But I think they upped his usage a little bit last week, and he looked really efficient. So I think he's only projected like 10 points. I think he easily matches. I think he's going to get in the end zone this week, and I think he easily beats that. So Javonte Williams will be my flex of the week.
Yeah, I like Javonte. I think he gets that backfield sooner rather than later. I talked about how Melvin Gordon was a guy for me last week that was going to be a fallback, not a bounce back. And he definitely did that. He didn't have a 70-yard touchdown this weekend, but he wasn't playing you either.
Yeah, right.
All right. Last piece here, matchup madness. Best NFL matchups to target for week 3. Ian, this is your topic. You start us off.
Yeah, I love this. And I'm going to go about the Chargers again. I feel like a closet Chargers fan. Chargers, Kansas City, another potential shootout. 2 young quarterbacks with a bunch of talent around them. It should be a fun matchup. So just roll them all out there. Even Edwards-Helaire this week.
Even Edwards-Helaire this week. Yeah. Let's hear a bold prediction. How many points? Over under 14.
For Edwards-Helaire?
Mm-hmm.
11.5.
That's not bold. Okay. All right. That cool thing about that is a rematch of Herbert's first game where he almost upset the Kansas City Chiefs, where he got about a 5-minute notice that he's going to be starting because Tyrod Taylor got a punctured lung.
Yeah.
And on that note, it'll be the first week Tyrod Taylor doesn't start this week. The world is time's a flat circle.
Davis Mills, get him while you can, guys. Davis Mills. Thanks, Herbert.
Davis Mills. All right, my matchup madness is Arizona versus Jacksonville. And if you're saying, well, Evan, Jacksonville's terrible. Yes, they are. But they're going to be playing from behind. And Marvin Jones is probably going to continue his touchdown streak at 31 years old. DJ Chark is going to get 12 targets. And Chenault is going to get targets as well. James Robinson's usage went up. They're going to be playing from behind. Robinson excelled in that last year. I think that that could be a high-scoring game for Arizona, but I think it's going to be a stat padding game, throwing from behind us to soft coverages for Jacksonville.
Over under 120 yards for Kyler Murray this week.
120 rushing?
Rushing, yeah. Of course, rushing.
Under. And I only say under because the Jack secondary is so terrible, he's not going to have to.
I feel like the over, but I feel like he's going to have a big game on the ground.
I doubt. I doubt the line's that high in Vegas, so that's a little bold.
I'm not in Vegas. I'm in Florida.
Ian, you said Florida and it got me all jacked up. Hit the outro. Bye.
Thank you for listening. Follow For FF's Sake on all social media platforms and search for us wherever you get your podcasts.